exactly buy a private island money, but enough to keep the lights on while he waited for his big break. Believe it or not, Worf was a last-minute addition. Gene Roddenberry decided at the 11th hour that they needed a Klingon on the bridge, just to visually signal to the audience that the Federation was now playing nice with Kirk's old enemies. But for Michael, that prosthetic forehead was a god-forsaken nightmare. The makeup took 3 hours every day, and the glue was so bad his skin started to stage a revolt. He almost quit. He told the producers, "Give me a better story, or I'm taking my forehead and going home." They listened, and Worf became the noble warrior we all know. He did all 176 episodes of The Next Generation, starting at 15,000 a pop and ending at 100,000. Between the salary and 30 years of residuals, he cleared $12 million for the series alone. But he also pulled off a rare trick, becoming the ultimate thematic bridge. While he was filming the show, he popped next door to film The Undiscovered Country with the original cast, playing his own grandfather, banking a quick $130,000 for that one. Then came Generations, where he was famously knocked into the ocean. Michael hated that scene, argued for 10 minutes that a Klingon wouldn't find it funny, but the producers kept it anyway. He made $1.4 million for that movie, and was the only one who didn't get a new uniform, because he was too tall for the ones they had lying around. Soon, when Deep Space Nine started losing its way, Paramount panicked. They brought in the Klingon to save the ratings, and it worked. Viewership jumped over 20%. Dorn knew his worth, too. He negotiated a deal that would eventually pay out $15.5 million for his run on the station. He even directed 3 episodes, proving there was a brain behind that ridged forehead. He was juggling 2 productions at once, filming First Contact during the day and Deep Space Nine at night. He spent 12 hours each day suspended in a heavy harness for that zero-gravity spacewalk. Worf took a convenient vacation from DS9 to film Insurrection. He banked $1.3 million to visit from a nearby colony and endure the indignity of Klingon puberty. Yes, folks, even Klingons get pimples and all. He enjoyed playing the character's short fuse, even if the script was about as stable as a Romulan engine. By Nemesis, Michael joined the unified front with his co-stars to demand $1 million floor. The studio tried to scare them, but Michael didn't blink, walking away with $1.4 million. If we count those sweet long-term residuals, too. When he groaned during Data's wedding song, it wasn't acting. The sequence took several days to film, and Dorn was spiritually done with the heavy Klingon makeup by that stage of his career. After letting his forehead chill for about 2 decades, he returned for Picard Season 3. He initially didn't want the white hair, but they convinced him by saying it made him look like Pai Mei from Kill Bill. With a cool $2.7 million for that season, and a much faster 1-hour makeup process, he finally got the respect and the paycheck he deserved. When you add it all up, across the record-breaking 283 episodes and 5 movies, he made a total of $35.9 million from salaries alone. But let's not forget he is the king of the convention circuit, having appeared at hundreds of events over more than 35 years. And his appearance fees consistently range from $50,000 to $100,000. Plus, if we factor in his extensive voice work in over a dozen Star Trek video games, as well as licensing for the massive volume of Worf-themed merchandise, he surely pocketed at least $12 million of non-salary Star Trek money. That makes his franchise total close to a juicy $50 million. But he's no one-trick Klingon. From Chips and Castle to voicing Invincible's Battle Beast and I Am Weasel, he's a voice-acting titan. And the man has taste, too. He spends his fortune on actual fighter jets, like his F-86 Sabre, because flying with the Blue Angels is far better than any green screen. He's also a true survivor, having beaten cancer and becoming a dedicated vegan. Today, at 73, Dorn is semi-retired and sits on a net worth of $8 million. Number 1. Patrick Stewart. Before he was Captain Jean-Luc Picard, the face of the Federation, Patrick Stewart was just another veteran of the Royal Shakespeare Company. By the time he hit 47, he'd spent over 20 years treading the boards in London, earning a respectable reputation, but a fairly modest net worth of about $150,000. That's a decent nest egg for a stage actor, sure, but not exactly retirement money. Then, Hollywood came calling, with a little show called Star Trek: The Next Generation. Now, the legend goes that Stewart only signed the 6-year contract because his agent convinced him the show would flop within a season. He figured he'd fly to LA, make a bit of cash, get a tan, and be back in London before anyone noticed he'd left. He didn't even bother unpacking his bags for the first 6 weeks. He was so convinced it was a dead end that he behaved like a proper, stiff upper lip professional, even scolding his co-stars for their unprofessional joking around in the first season. Little did he know, he was about to spend the next few decades being corrupted by Jonathan Frakes and Brent Spiner into the lovable prankster we see today. But getting the job wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Gene Roddenberry, the great bird of the galaxy himself, was apparently horrified at the idea of a bald English guy taking over from Kirk. To keep Gene happy, Stewart actually auditioned in a wig that was FedExed from London. It must have looked like a dead squirrel sat on his head. Because Paramount and Roddenberry eventually realized he looked much better without it. As Gene famously told a reporter, in the 24th century, they wouldn't care about baldness. And just like that, the cowboy era of Trek was replaced by the diplomat era, and the paychecks started rolling in. During those 7 seasons of The Next Generation, Stewart appeared in a massive 176 episodes. He started at a modest, by Hollywood standards, $60,000 per episode, but by the time the show wrapped up in 1994, he was pulling in a cool $150,000. When you do the math on that entire run, Stewart walked away with almost $18 million. Not bad for a guy who didn't want to